Greetings, magnificent souls, to the Attract Health, Build Wealth podcast, where we have open and honest discussions about ourselves. This is a place where we break down, break away, and break through codependency, allowing ourselves to attract health, build wealth, and live a peaceful life. We are tired of being sick and tired. We are tired, but we are not giving up. We know that there is something magnificent inside of us. Because we are fighting daily, hourly, and by the minute, fighting ourselves, our kids, our spouses, we have to do things differently. We have to break the cycle. We don't have a million chances. We have to be happy now. We have to find a way. So how do we do that? How is that possible? If you look around at what society is telling you, they tell you that what we're doing is impossible. Yet it's happening every single day. And it's happening through the practice and love that we call awakening the magnificent soul. We are all magnificent souls, and these are our stories of healing. Today in episode 14, I wanted to do something a little different and do a book review on one of the most influential works I've ever come across in my life. And that is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. But before we get into the discussion, don't forget to let me know your thoughts about this episode, any feedback you have, or anything you'd like me to cover on future podcasts at epiphanyvault.com. Remember, you can share anonymously. It's a safe place, and I would welcome the discussion. The idea for talking about this book came from the realization that it has been such a huge, huge force in my life. So much so that I think I read The Power of Now every 2 months, or even sooner than that if I'm feeling really down, or if I feel like I need to tap into my introspective nature. And with each read, I always glean new insight and new information. And it's such an amazing refresher each time I pick it up. And I recommend it all the time to whomever, friends, family, clients. If you're close to me and you're listening to this, you probably have a copy in your hand, and it's probably for me. And there are people out there who are striving to, quote unquote, control their thoughts. And I recommend this book to them, although, to be honest, I have trouble with that phrase and terminology. And you'll see as you begin to practice presence and now, you'll see what I mean. And also, if you follow me on Instagram, you see that I post a lot of little snapshots of quotes and topics that hit me deeply when I'm reading and rereading it. So today I thought I'd dive into it and kind of see where the conversation takes us. I will also provide a link to the book in the show notes, and if you purchase through the link, you will be showing support for the cause, as I do receive a few cents from each purchase. So thank you if you end up doing that. So again, what we're talking about today is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I love the title, and being kind of indoctrinated into the practice now, I completely understand the validity of the title. And what I've learned is that there's a tremendous strength and power, just like he says, in connecting with the here, the now, the present. And as a former codependent, I was so detached to that feeling in that present moment because I was living in this space of should, ought to, wanting things that were not with me at that present moment. And I had no idea that was even the case, right? There's so much detachment going on with codependency, and I was so far away and so far detached from that present moment feeling. According to Eckhart, his awakening occurred when he was at an extremely low point in his life, and he was very depressed, was contemplating suicide, and as was I. As he began to work his way out, people began asking him his secrets to living such a peaceful and meaningful life. And that was the work that he produced in his books, his courses, conferences, and he's become this amazing light for so many, including myself. And as awesome as it sounds, I am on that path myself, and I do have some things to share soon. But the book is organized in kind of a conversational manner in which the author asks questions and then answers them. For example, the very first question that he asks in the book is enlightenment. What is that? So it seems as if Mr. Tolle has taken stock of all the questions in his life that he has asked himself throughout his life to reach that point of awakening. And I love that he continues to prod and ask questions throughout the book, like trying to trip himself up, for example, or, trying to tap into thoughts that you would have as you are reading. So I really like that. And they're all genuine questions, I think, that he probably struggled with himself. And to me, this is so much more than just a self-help book. In some ways, it's kind of become the canon of my life. And it's hard for me to even express how important this work is to me. In all honesty, I did find it a little dense at first, and there are references to God, and that wasn't something that I connected with. But as I read along and continued to reading the book, I was able to think about God on my terms of what God means to me. And if that's the case, I encourage you not to be turned off by that, because that was definitely me at one point. And try to incorporate it into how, whether that be a universal tap or a spiritual tap or a higher power, or really anything that would work best for you. So just a heads up on that, because that's it turned me off at the beginning, in complete honesty. All in all, though, I completely agree with Eckhart and the power of now. And I pulled a few excerpts that I've noted along the way. Surprisingly, the book, and I do have like a hard copy book, surprisingly, it is not as marked up as you would think it would be. There are, different little spots where I've noted some things, but all in all, it's pretty clean for a regular book. But I pulled some of those that I really, wanted to share. So here are some excerpts, and including some practical advice, if that helps you. If you have a brain like me that is really looking for some things to start today. So here's a quote. So when you listen to your thought, you are aware not only of the thought, but also as yourself, as the witness of the thought. So I'm going to read it again. So when you listen to a thought, you are aware not only of the thought, but also as yourself, as the witness of the thought. So here, Eckhart is teaching us how to detach from our thoughts. And if you're codependent, you know how difficult that can be. For me, my mind was always racing in anticipation of future events, or thinking about past events, past wrongs, anticipating my partner's wants and needs. And it could be with myself, or it could relate to my partner. But the act of thinking something and saying, hey, I'm having that thought, but also taking it to the next level, is where the quote comes into play, and saying, hey, this is me, and this is me being aware of that thought. And it sounds so rudimentary just to put it down like that, but it's so powerful because it helps you detach from those thoughts. And if you were like me, these thoughts were mostly negative, with helpless and hopeless undertones and thoughts that I knew that were unhealthy and dysfunctional, but I didn't know really how to, they were just my life. They were all encompassing. But learning how to accept them and then be present with them is what Eckhart teaches. And it's been a massive step for me in the breakaway process through codependency. Here's another good one. And I'm going to read this one slowly because it's really good. I love it. So, the single most vital step on your journey towards enlightenment is this. Learn to disidentify from your mind. Every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. One more time. So the single most vital step on your journey towards enlightenment is this. Learn to disidentify from your mind. Every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. So good. That was me. You know that quote, "You are not your thoughts"? This is this in a nutshell. And man, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about all the negative self-talk that used to happen with me. And the codependency really came into play when my partner would reinforce these thoughts. Like, how many times did you get into an argument or disagreement with your partner and he or she says, "Oh, you're just being sensitive," or "You're being too crazy"? And then somehow I would think those thoughts too. Somehow I would agree. It's so hard to describe, but you know what Eckhart says above is that disidentifying from your mind, every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. Man, so good. Just so powerful. And this is the one book that if I had the means to do so, I would send to anyone that wanted one. Not only is this practice life-changing for you and for me, but as a society, we would be able to make such amazing strides if we could just tap into societal consciousness as a whole. But I digress. Here's one more favorite from the book. End quote. "In the enlightened state, you still use your thinking mind when needed, but in a much more focused and effective way than before. You use it mostly for practical purposes, but you are free of the involuntary internal dialogue, and there is inner stillness." All right, one more time. "In the enlightened state, you still use your thinking mind when needed, but in a much more focused and effective way than before. You use it mostly for practical purposes, but you are free of the involuntary internal dialogue, and there is inner stillness." You see what I mean when I say it's kind of dense? Like, it takes you a little while, or at least it takes me a little while to kind of internalize and make sense of some of the text. But that involuntary internal dialogue, which I'm so happy to say that I'm almost free from, but in fact, this is kind of a subject for another podcast. I think as codependents, we are never fully free of that internal dialogue, which is why I feel like soul maintenance is so important. But, we're just basically talking about self-talk again here. And what's so interesting too, and this is my opinion, is that this can be either negative or positive self-talk. But the act of observing the thinking mind, as Eckhart wants us to do, and not judging it as good, bad, happy, or sad, that's the inner stillness. That's the place where we want to get to. That's the inner peace that he's talking about. It's so amazing. So happy to be talking about this. But I will stop there with the quotes. But please, if you take nothing away from today, please get this for your library. Audible, Kindle, old-fashioned paperback. This has been watering my soul for years, and I hope it can water yours. As always, epiphanyvault.com is open for feedback, questions, comments, and of course, you're welcome to share there. I will see you again soon. Living and loving.